2026 is the year horror fans have been waiting for. We're getting everything from AAA franchises to indie nightmares that'll keep you up at night. These 22 games prove horror is alive and terrifying on PS5. If this helps you find your next sleepless night, hit that subscribe button. Let's dive into the darkness.
February 27th, 2026. That's when Capcom drops what could be the biggest survival horror game of the decade. Resident Evil 9, codenamed Requiem, is coming, and the leak suggests this is going darker than ever. We don't have official gameplay yet, but insiders report this returns to the series' survival horror roots. Think RE7's first-person terror combined with RE4 Remake's combat refinement. Capcom learned what works. The rumored setting is a European village dealing with a new outbreak. Classic Resident Evil setup, but with RE engine technology pushing PS5 to its limits. The lighting, the gore, the environmental detail, this is next-gen horror. But what really excites me, rumors suggest multiple playable characters with interconnected stories. Classic RE structure, but modernized. You're experiencing the outbreak from different perspectives. Get this, Capcom has been on an absolute tear with remakes. RE2, RE3, RE4, all critical darlings. Now, they're applying that polish to a brand new mainline entry with a decade of lessons learned. Coming February 27th, 2026. If you love survival horror, this is your most anticipated game of the year. Capcom doesn't miss with Resident Evil anymore.
Tarsier Studios, the team behind Little Nightmares, is back with something that looks absolutely terrifying. Reanimal drops February 13th, 2026, and this might be their darkest game yet. You're exploring a twisted version of a 1980s theme park where the mascots have become nightmarish creatures. The art direction is disturbing, cute characters warped into horrifying monsters. It's that Tarsier specialty of making childhood imagery terrifying. The gameplay looks like their signature cinematic platforming mixed with stealth horror. You're small, vulnerable, hiding from things that want to tear you apart. Every encounter is tense because you can't fight back. But here's what makes this special. The 80s aesthetic mixed with body horror. Neon lights reflecting off grotesque creatures, animatronics that move wrong, theme park music playing while you're running for your life. The atmosphere looks incredible. And listen, Tarsier knows how to do horror. Little Nightmares 1 and 2 were phenomenal. Now they're applying that expertise with bigger budget and PS5 power behind them. February 13th, 2026. If you love Little Nightmares or want something that disturbs you in creative ways, this is essential. Mark your calendar.
Koei Tecmo is remaking one of horror gaming's most terrifying experiences. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake launches March 12, 2026, and if you've never played the original, you're not ready. You're twin sisters exploring an abandoned village with only a camera to defend yourself. Not a gun, a camera. You have to photograph ghosts at close range to exorcise them. The closer you get, the more effective. It's genius horror design. The original was terrifying on PS2. Now imagine it rebuilt with modern graphics, DualSense features, feeling ghost hands through the controller, hearing whispers in the dark. The immersion will be insane. But what makes Fatal Frame special? It's based on Japanese folklore. Vengeful spirits, tragic backstories, locations steep in real cultural horror. It hits different from Western horror games. The crazy part? The original sold poorly in the West, but is considered one of the scariest games ever made. This remake is a second chance for people to experience genuine terror. March 12th, 2026. If you want horror that relies on atmosphere and dread instead of jump scares, this is mandatory. Bring a friend, you'll need one.
The master of horror himself is behind this. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando is coming 2026, and it's a top-down shooter with horror elements from the director of The Thing and Halloween. You're fighting through a post-apocalyptic wasteland filled with mutated creatures. It's arcade action meets body horror. Think Smash TV, but genuinely disturbing. Fast-paced shooting with Carpenter's signature dread underneath. The art direction nails that 80s horror aesthetic. Neon colors, Sims soundtrack, grotesque enemy designs. This is Carpenter's vision brought to interactive media, and his involvement isn't just licensing, he's actively working on it. But here's what makes this interesting. It's not pure horror, it's horror action. You're empowered to fight back, but the imagery and atmosphere keep it terrifying. The best of both worlds. Plus, Carpenter is composing music for it. His Sims scores defined horror. Having him create the soundtrack for a game he's developing is genuinely special. Coming 2026. If you love Carpenter's films or want fast-paced horror action, keep this on your radar. The Master is back.
September 8th, 2026. Exactly 2 months before Halloween. That's when Michael Myers finally gets the horror game he deserves, and it looks genuinely terrifying. You're playing as survivors trying to escape Haddonfield while Michael hunts you. Asymmetric multiplayer like Dead by Daylight, but this is based on the original John Carpenter film. The atmosphere, the music, the slow stalking, it's all here. What makes this different from other slasher games? Michael moves like he does in the films. He doesn't run, he walks, but he's always there. That slow, inevitable pursuit is more terrifying than any sprint mechanic. The game captures that iconic Halloween aesthetic. Suburban streets on October 31st, porch lights, jack-o'-lanterns, then Michael's white mask appearing in the darkness. The tension builds perfectly. But here's what really sells it. They got the license right. This isn't generic slasher stuff. This is the Halloween, with proper music, locations from the film, and that unmistakable feeling of being hunted by pure evil. September 8th, 2026. If you love Halloween or asymmetric horror, this is your game. Michael Myers is finally getting the treatment he deserves. An indie horror game that's getting serious attention. Ontos is coming 2026, and the trailer suggests something that'll mess with your head in the best worst way. You're exploring liminal spaces, those unsettling transitional areas that feel wrong. Empty malls, infinite hallways, abandoned offices, places that shouldn't exist but somehow do. The aesthetic is deeply uncomfortable. The horror here is psychological. No jump scares, no monsters chasing you, just the growing dread of being somewhere that defies logic. Doors that lead nowhere, rooms that change when you're not looking, reality breaking down. But what makes this special? The sound design. Every footstep echoes wrong. Distant sounds that shouldn't be there. Silence that feels oppressive. You're constantly on edge without knowing why. And listen, this is a small team punching way above their weight. The atmosphere they've created rivals AAA horror games. Sometimes limitation breeds creativity. Coming 2026, if you want horror that gets under your skin through atmosphere alone, watch this one closely. This could be the next indie horror hit. Supermassive is taking their horror anthology to space. The Dark Pictures Directive 8020 was delayed to first half 2026, and honestly, the extra development time will make this better. You're on a space station dealing with something that's killing the crew. Classic sci-fi horror setup, but Supermassive knows how to make these scenarios work. Your choices matter. Characters can die permanently. Every decision has weight. The graphics look phenomenal. Supermassive's motion capture technology creates photorealistic characters with genuine emotional performances. When someone's terrified, you feel it. But what makes this exciting? Space horror is rare in games. Dead Space exists, but narrative-driven space horror? That's an untapped goldmine. Alien Isolation meets Until Dawn. Get this, if you've played other Dark Pictures games, there are reportedly connections. Supermassive is building a shared universe across these anthologies. The lore runs deeper than you'd expect. First half 2026. If you loved Until Dawn or The Quarry, this is essential. Supermassive keeps improving their formula. Frogwares is returning to their Lovecraftian open-world horror. The Sinking City 2 launches first half 2026, and they're fixing everything the first game got criticized for. You're a detective in a flooded city investigating cosmic horror. Think underwater Gotham meets Cthulhu mythos. The first game had incredible atmosphere, but rough execution. This sequel has a bigger budget and more polish. The investigation mechanics are what make this unique. You're piecing together clues, making deductions, solving mysteries. It's detective work mixed with sanity-draining horror. Your mental state affects how you perceive reality. But here's what excites me. The first game was ambitious but janky. Now Frogwares has experience, better tech, and lessons learned. This could be the definitive Lovecraftian open-world game. The crazy part, not many games tackle Lovecraftian horror properly. Most go for tentacles and monsters. Frogwares understands it's about dread, madness, and things humans weren't meant to comprehend. First half, 2026. If you love Lovecraft or detective games with horror elements, this deserves your attention. Frogwares is onto something special. A co-op horror game that's been quietly building hype. Grave Seasons is coming 2026, and this could be the next Phasmophobia-level phenomenon. You're paranormal investigators exploring haunted locations with friends. But this isn't just ghost hunting. There are seasonal changes that affect the hauntings. Winter brings different terrors than summer. The variety keeps every session fresh. The co-op design is what makes this work. You need teammates. One person monitors equipment, another investigates, someone else documents evidence. Communication is survival. When things go wrong, they go spectacularly wrong. What really hooked me, the AI adapts to how you play. If you're cautious, it becomes aggressive. If you're aggressive, it hides and waits. The ghost learns your patterns and punishes them. Plus, the graphics show serious polish for an indie team. Photorealistic environments, dynamic lighting, weather effects that actually impact gameplay. This isn't some asset flip horror game. Coming 2026. If you and your friends want cooperative horror that's actually scary, keep this on your radar. This could be the next big streaming game. Clive Barker's Cenobites are finally getting a proper horror game. Hellraiser Revival is coming 2026, and if they nail the tone, this will be genuinely disturbing. You're solving the Lament configuration puzzle box, and every solution brings you closer to hell. The Cenobites aren't monsters. They're angels to some, demons to others. That philosophical horror is what makes Hellraiser unique. The game reportedly focuses on psychological horror over jump scares. You're exploring what happens when someone seeks pleasure beyond mortal comprehension. Body horror, cosmic dread, the corruption of desire, heavy themes handled properly. But here's what excites me. Barker's involved in development. This isn't just licensing his property. He's ensuring it captures the book's and film's essence. That matters enormously for staying true to the source material. And listen, there hasn't been a good Hellraiser game ever. This is the franchise's shot at interactive media done right. The pressure is on, but the talent seems committed. Coming 2026. If you love cosmic horror with philosophical depth, watch this closely. Hellraiser deserves better than it's gotten in gaming. A first-person psychological horror game about battling literal demons. The Occultist is coming 2026, and the premise has me genuinely intrigued. You're an occultist performing rituals to banish demons from our world. But here's the twist. You have to learn real occult practices, drawing sigils, performing incantations, preparing ritual spaces. The game teaches you actual occult methodology. The horror comes from rituals going wrong, summoning something you can't control, breaking concentration mid-ritual. The consequences are terrifying because you understand what you did wrong. But what makes this special? It's educational in a strange way. You're learning about real occult history, mythology, and practices while experiencing horror. It's like playing a disturbing documentary. The best part? The developers consulted with actual occultists to ensure authenticity. This isn't Hollywood magic, it's based on historical practices. That commitment to research shows real respect for the subject matter. Coming 2026. If you want horror that's intellectually engaging alongside being scary, this is unique. Nothing else in gaming is attempting this angle. Tactical horror game mixing XCOM-style strategy with supernatural enemies. Valor Mortis is coming 2026, and this genre blend could be incredible. You're commanding a squad fighting paranormal threats, turn-based tactical combat where your enemies are ghosts, demons, and things that don't follow normal rules. How do you flank something that can teleport? The strategy layer is what makes this interesting. Managing resources, researching supernatural weaknesses, equipping your team with blessed weapons and protective gear. Every mission requires preparation. But here's the hook: permanent death. Lose a squad member, they're gone. Their equipment is lost. You have to recruit and train replacements. Every decision carries genuine weight because failure means starting over. What really sells it? The art style. Dark, gothic, oppressive. Think Darkest Dungeon meets supernatural warfare. The aesthetic perfectly matches the gameplay's grim tone. Coming 2026, if you love tactical games and horror, this is a perfect marriage of genres. Strategy fans need to watch this one. Reality-bending horror from a small Polish studio. Dark Fracture is coming 2026, and the gameplay trailers show something genuinely unsettling. You're exploring environments where reality breaks down, rooms that loop endlessly, hallways that lead back to where you started, physics that stop working correctly. The disorientation is the horror. What makes this work? There's no combat. You can't fight reality falling apart. You can only try to navigate through it and maintain your sanity. The helplessness creates constant tension. The visuals are what grabbed me. Clean, modern environments that slowly corrupt. A normal apartment becomes a nightmare maze. A hospital transforms into something impossible. The transition from familiar to wrong is expertly handled. Wait for it, this is being made by the team behind Phantasmal. They learned from that game's reception and are applying those lessons here. Sometimes failure breeds better success. Coming 2026, if you want psychological horror that messes with your perception, this is worth watching. Polish horror devs don't miss often. First-person horror set in Eastern Europe. Post-Trauma is one of the most atmospheric horror games you can play right now, and it's criminally underrated. You're exploring abandoned locations, dealing with PTSD and trauma. The horror is both external, supernatural threats, and internal, your character's deteriorating mental state. That dual-layer storytelling hits different. The graphics are photorealistic. These are real scan locations from Eastern Europe, abandoned hospitals, Soviet-era buildings, forgotten places. The authenticity makes everything more unsettling because it all existed in reality. But what really landed for me, the game handles mental health with surprising respect. PTSD isn't just a horror gimmick, it's explored thoughtfully while still delivering scares. Get this, it's only about 6 to 8 hours, but there's no filler. Every moment serves a story. Every location has purpose. Modern horror games could learn from this pacing. Go grab this. If you want horror that combines supernatural scares with genuine emotional depth, play this immediately. One of last year's best horror games. A short, narrative horror game that deserves way more attention. The Midnight Walk is perfect for anyone wanting a focused horror experience without commitment. You're walking through your neighborhood at night when things start feeling wrong. Familiar streets become unfamiliar, normal sounds become threatening, the mundane transforms into nightmare. The entire game is one continuous walk, no loading screens, no breaks, just you, the night, and growing dread. That commitment to immersion makes every moment feel real. What surprised me, it's only 60 to 90 minutes long, but the price reflects that. This isn't trying to be a 20-hour experience. It's a short story in game form, and it respects that structure. The best part? The neighborhood is modeled after a real place. The developers recreated their actual neighborhood, then twisted it. That personal connection shows in every detail. Download this tonight. If you have 90 minutes and want focused horror with no bloat, this is perfect. Not everything needs to be 50 hours long. Scott Cawthon dropped a new FNAF game and it's pushing the series in genuinely interesting directions. You're dealing with the Mimic, the entity that's been haunting the recent lore. This isn't just animatronics anymore, this is something that learns, adapts, and imitates. The horror evolves as you play. The gameplay mixes classic FNAF mechanics with new elements. You're still managing limited resources and monitoring cameras, but the Mimic's ability to copy sounds and voices adds psychological horror to the jump scares. But here's what makes this exciting. FNAF has become a cultural phenomenon.
over $500 million in merchandise sales, a successful movie. This series transcended gaming. And listen, whether you love or hate FNAF, you can't deny Scott Cawthon's consistency. He keeps delivering what fans want while pushing the formula forward. That's rare in horror gaming. Jump in right now. If you're an FNAF fan or curious about what made this series a phenomenon, this is your entry point. The lore is deep, but each game stands alone. Konami is bringing Silent Hill to Japan, and this might be the most visually stunning entry in the franchise. You're in 1960s Japan dealing with the town's signature fog and psychological horror, but this time it's filtered through Japanese horror traditions. Yokai mythology meets Silent Hill's nightmare logic. The cultural shift completely transforms the atmosphere. The graphics are built in Unreal Engine 5. Character models are photorealistic. The environments are oppressively detailed. When the sirens blare and reality shifts, the transformation is genuinely disturbing. What really hooked me, this is directed by Ryukishi07, creator of Higurashi. He understands psychological horror that builds slowly. This isn't just monsters jumping out. This is dread that accumulates until you're suffocating. Plus, Akira Yamaoka is back on music. His soundscapes define Silent Hill's identity. Having him return for this cultural reimagining ensures the audio will be perfect. This is coming soon. If you love Silent Hill or want Japanese horror done right, this is mandatory. Konami is finally treating this franchise with respect again. Techland is returning to their parkour zombie franchise, and it's going back to what made the original special. You're Kyle Crane again, the protagonist from Dying Light 1. He's been captured and experimented on for years. Now he's escaped, and he's hunting those responsible. The revenge narrative gives this focus the second game lacked. The parkour combat is refined to perfection. You're flowing through environments, using momentum to destroy zombies. When it clicks, you feel unstoppable. The movement system is still the best in gaming. But here's what makes this exciting. It's a standalone expansion, not a full sequel. Focused story, tight pacing, no bloat. Techland learned that bigger isn't always better. And listen, the first Dying Light is beloved. The second game divided fans. This is Techland course correcting by returning to what worked. Sometimes you need to go back to move forward. This drops soon. If you love the first Dying Light or want parkour zombie action done right, this is essential. Welcome back, Crane. A Brazilian indie horror game that's been building serious buzz. Ludo tackles grief and loss through psychological horror in ways most games won't touch. You're dealing with the aftermath of a family tragedy while supernatural elements creep into your reality. The horror isn't about monsters, it's about processing trauma while something malevolent feeds on your pain. The atmosphere is oppressively heavy, quiet moments that make you uncomfortable, everyday objects that feel wrong. The game understands that real dread doesn't need jump scares, it needs emotional vulnerability. But what makes this special, it's made by a small Brazilian team exploring themes rarely seen in horror games. Grief as a horror mechanism, how loss warps perception, the way trauma manifests as something tangible and terrifying. Plus, the visuals are deliberately unsettling. Muted colors, distorted perspectives, environments that shift subtly when you're not paying attention. It's psychological horror done through environmental storytelling. You can play this right now. If you want horror that disturbs you emotionally rather than just scaring you, this deserves attention. Sometimes the most effective horror comes from the smallest studios. Classic survival horror is back, and if you love the first game, this is bigger and better in every way. You're exploring a massive hospital with fixed camera angles and tank controls. Yes, really. This is unapologetically old-school survival horror for people who missed that era. The puzzle design is what made the first game special. Complex, interconnected challenges requiring actual thought. You need to backtrack, take notes, remember details. Modern gamers will struggle. That's the point. But what excited me about the sequel, they're expanding everything. Bigger environments, more elaborate puzzles, deeper lore. Everything fans wanted more of. The crazy part, the first game was made by a tiny team and became a cult hit. Now they have budget and resources to fully realize their vision. This is passion project gaming at its finest. Launches this year. If you miss Resident Evil and Silent Hill from the PS1 era, this is your game.
Not everything needs to be modernized.
Tarsier's Nightmare World continues, and this time you're not alone. The game introduces co-op to the theories. You're playing as two children trapped in the Spiral, a twisted desert landscape filled with horrifying creatures. One character has a wrench, the other has a bow. You need each other to survive. The co-op design is what changes everything. Puzzles require coordination. One player creates distractions while the other sneaks past. When something chases you, teamwork determines survival. Playing solo with AI works, but co-op is the intended experience. But what makes this special, Tarsier's artistic vision remains intact. That disturbing blend of whimsy and horror, grotesque characters that haunt your dreams, environments that feel like Tim Burton's nightmares. What really excited me, the setting shift. We've seen the Maw and the Pale City. The Spiral's desert wasteland offers completely new horrors. Sandstorms that hide monsters, sun-bleached bones, dehydration as a mechanic. Coming later this year, if you love the first two games or want horror that disturbs through art direction, this is essential. Bring a friend, you'll need the support.
A cyberpunk horror game that's flying under most people's radar, and this could be the year's biggest horror surprise. You're a hacker in a dystopian future investigating disappearances connected to an AI system. The horror is technological, surveillance systems that watch you, AIs that mimic human behavior perfectly, digital spaces that trap consciousness. What grabbed me, this explores tech horror that feels relevant now. Deepfakes, AI manipulation, the loss of privacy. These aren't abstract future concepts, they're current anxieties made horrifying. The gameplay mixes traditional horror exploration with hacking puzzles. You're breaking into systems, manipulating code, and discovering things humans weren't meant to access. The digital horror is genuinely creative. And here's the kicker. The visuals blend neon cyberpunk aesthetics with body horror. Clean digital environments corrupting into biological nightmares. The art direction is striking and disturbing simultaneously. Drops late this year. If you want horror that tackles modern technological fears, this deserves your attention. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we're building right now.
There you have it, 22 horror games that'll keep you up at night through 2026 and beyond. From AAA franchises to indie nightmares, horror is thriving on PlayStation. Which game are you most terrified to play? Let me know in the comments. And if this helped you find your next sleepless night, hit that like and subscribe. Stay scared out there. I'll see you in the darkness.